And we are back. Now we're going to talk a little bit about these top secret rules. I mean, how many of you knew that there were rules out there for the government? I mean, because this has been an ongoing battle with the government for a while. They started off with this SISPA Act, trying to pass a law in Congress that allows the government to be able to ask big companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft for their database whenever they want without a warrant, and these companies have to give it. Obama shot it down and said no. So that was dead. Then recently the FBI started asking companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft, they asked them for their database, and those companies collectively got together and said no, we're not going to give it, not without a warrant or some legal precedent why you have to have these information. And we're seeing that this thing is just not stopping. And according to The Guardian, which is a UK publication, the top secret rules that allow the NSA to use US data without a warrant. Now they go into it. They said these top secret documents submitted to the court that oversees surveillance by US intelligence agencies show the judges have signed off on broad orders which allow NSA to make use of information inadvertently collected. So not directly collected, but inadvertently collected from domestic U.S. communications without a warrant. That means your phone calls you make on landlines, phone calls you make on cell phones while you're stationary and stuff like that. They can, quote unquote, let's say that, let me just try and see if I can break this down to you. They can say that they were scanning frequencies, looking for a particular person, and they happen to scan your frequency and record your conversation. That was inadvertent. They didn't mean to do it. That was inadvertent. So it gives them precedence to collect information on U.S. citizens with U.S. communications inadvertently. The Guardian is publishing a full 2 documents submitted to the Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, known as FISA. The Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, FISA. Signed by Attorney General Eric Holder and stamped 20th of July 2009, they detail the procedures the NSA is required to follow to target non-U.S. persons, supposed to be non-U.S. persons, under its foreign intelligence power, and what the agency does to minimize data collected on U.S. citizens and residents in the course of that surveillance. The document shows that even under authorities governing the collection of foreign intelligence from foreign targets, U.S. communication can still be collected, retained, and used. And the procedures cover only part of the NSA's surveillance of domestic USA communication. The bulk collection of domestic call records, as first revealed by The Guardian earlier this month, takes place under rolling court orders issued on the basis of a legal interpretation of a different authority in Section 215 of the Patriot Act. Now, the FISA court's oversight role has been referenced many times by Barack Obama and senior intelligence officials as they have sought to reassure the public about surveillance, but the procedure approved by the courts have never been publicly disclosed. Now, Devin, do you think that now that these things came out, now that the public knows that the NSA can not only listen in on private conversations by U.S. citizens, it can also retain, not just record, but keep that information for later use if they say it was inadvertently collected. So if they're scanning frequencies looking for, they say, well, we're looking for terrorists, or we're just scanning the frequencies looking to see what kind of chatter is out there, and they want to pinpoint Coral Springs area, for example, where the world headquarters of Pulse Media is. They want to, look at Coral Springs, and they decide, well, let me just look at this one location, and all of your phone calls, they're saying that, okay, we're listening to it. We don't hear anything there, but that we weren't necessarily looking for you, Devin or Reggie, in that location. We thought there might be some terrorist activity because the procedure calls for the NSA to collect data on non-U.S. residents and citizens, non-U.S. But if looking for non-U.S. resident citizens, they inadvertently record your calls, they can still keep it, for any amount of time. And the public didn't know that before. Now this thing came out last week. It came out that this is what the NSA is doing. They're not only getting calls from regular citizens, but they're keeping it. They're keeping it under files, and people are now, in the tech industry, this story is now blowing up to where people are saying that now your calls are not only being recorded, but they're being kept. And if it's inadvertent, shouldn't the government erase it since they weren't really looking for me? And matter of fact, the Act says, the Non-U.S. Persons Procedures Act, that they're supposed to be collecting this data, says that they have to collect it on non-U.S. citizens and residents. And if inadvertently they collect data, let's say like when you're fishing, right? When you're fishing and you're looking for snapper, you get a big net, you pull in all the snapper, you might get some grouper, you might get some swordfish in there too, because it's a big net. But when you realize you got the grouper and you got the swordfish, you're not supposed to keep it. You're supposed to put it back in the ocean, right? But the NSA is saying that, well, we got it, we might as well keep it. I mean, what do you think about that? Now that you know this leak has come out to say this is what the government is doing, just nobody knew it.
That's my answer. I hope you heard it loud and clear. That's ridiculous. That's, they...
I mean, do you see a reason why they would, inadvertently get some the citizens' phone calls or, inadvertently, but when they realize it, do you think they have a responsibility to erase it, or because it was collected along with some possible terrorist surveillance, they just say, I'll just keep it? No, what's the government's responsibility in that if they say it was collected inadvertently?
Throw back the fish. You gave a perfect analogy. I mean, there's nothing else to be said. You are not supposed to be spying on people that...
On your own people.
On your own people. I really believe that we need to be secure, and we need to give, access.
Some latitude.
Yes, some latitude. But you don't store this kind of stuff. The people don't have any,
because they're admitting it was inadvertent.
Throw it back.
Right.
You don't need it. Throw it back. Why are you going to collect? You don't have space anyway to keep it. You're running out of space. Throw it back.
And I agree, and that's what many people are saying is, do you understand that in the mass collection of data, there's going to be some inadvertent, like you're taking out trash and you inadvertently take something that you didn't want to throw away. But once you realize that, you don't continue to throw it away. You say, oh, yeah, let me take that out, and so forth, and that's all they have to do, But they're saying that these rules, the NSA, because the government cannot get the cooperation of the Googles, of the Apples, of the Microsoft to just turn over data. They can't get them. Now, mind you, these companies say if they have a warrant, they will release their information. If they have a warrant, legal precedence to get it. But if the FBI just calls them, hello, Google, give me your all the records you have on everybody for the last 10 years. Google's like, no, I'm not going to do that because that's a violation of privacy that every U.S. citizen and resident is entitled to by your own government. But they're saying that in the effort of trying to protect, they need to be able to do these things. And I'm saying, okay, look, we all know that in order to be safe, there are going to be some luxuries we have to give up. That's just what it is. We get that. But if you're surveilling, if you're looking at somebody else, and you happen to hear something I'm saying inadvertently, and let's say what I'm saying doesn't even raise any red flags. It's not like I'm saying something and I said terrorist and kill Obama, and I said those things in some kind of success. They're like, wait, there's something there. If that was it, then I could see them saying, let me go ahead and look over this thing. Yeah, I could see that. But if all I'm talking about is beans, or I'm talking about, and you inadvertently hear that on your way to catching surveillance on someone else, then that information should be released, because it has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. And so that's how I think the government needs to, really needs to operate. But the government has been on a tear recently trying to get information from the bigger companies like Google, like Google and Apple and Microsoft and all of these big companies, and those companies have turned them down at every time without that warrant. So this new top secret rules that, according to the Guardian, that the NSA uses, is really something that people need to know what's happening. People need to know what's out there, what's going on, what the government is and isn't doing. And, a lot of people, are afraid to really say much because, they don't want to bring the government down on them because, they're saying what sense would that make? But the point is that there's a right way to do things, obviously, and then there's a wrong way, and if the government is doing things in the wrong way because, the government is elected by the people. If the government is doing things in the wrong way, then, people have a right to say it. Just like the government can say, you're doing the wrong thing or someone is doing the wrong thing, the people can say the same thing. And so I think that this is something that really just people need to know and understand that this is what's going on. And the government really, in their attempts to secure the country, feel that they have to take these drastic steps. But are these drastic steps too drastic? Are these drastic steps that they're taking, is it too much? Do they really need to do it? Or is it just the excuse they're using to do these things? So we have to see. According to a publication, that the documents published by The Guardian show that the data collected on U.S. persons under the Foreign Intelligence Authority must be destroyed. It's supposed to be destroyed. They also reveal the steps analysts are required to take to check targets that are outside the U.S. and how U.S. call records are used to help remove U.S. citizens and residents from data collection. But the provisions provided by the FISA court also reportedly allow the NSA to do the following: keep the data that could potentially contain details of U.S. persons for up to 5 years, retain and make use of inadvertently acquired domestic communications if they contain usable intelligence information on criminal activity, threat or harm to people or property, or encrypted or are believed to contain any information relevant to cybersecurity. It can preserve foreign intelligence information contained within attorney-client communications, access the content of communications gathered from U.S.-based machines or phone numbers in order to establish if targets are located in the U.S. for the purpose of ceasing further surveillance. So all of these things is what is allowed by this, the provision approved by the FISA court for use by the NSA. So we're coming up on a break. And, after the break, we're going to talk about the PlayStation 4 being unlimitedly able to be pre-ordered at GameStop, why that's a problem, and, think on this. I mean, is the NSA using their data collection powers responsibly? All of this and more coming up after the break on Tech Pulse.